24 of the nation's best come here to Atlanta. Zion Williamson, number 2 in the ESPN 100, a headliner for Duke's top-ranked class. The McDonald's All-American game is next.
When you look at some of the greatest players to ever play the game, the one thing most had in common, they were McDonald's All-Americans. The heroes of the sport were at one time McDonald's All-Americans.
Pay attention to the stars of tomorrow tonight.
The next players in this generation to take this game to a new level.
This kid is the face of college basketball.
NBA scouts are drooling right now. Sexton throwing it up top. Are you not entertained?
Welcome to the 2018 McDonald's All-American game. Closing in on tip-off here at Phillips Arena in Atlanta. East meets West. 12 of the best players from across the country on each roster, ready to square off against one another. Mike Cousins, glad to be with you with 2 former McDonald's All-Americans, class of 99, Jay Williams, class of 91 for Corey Alexander.
Every time.
One of the greatest classes of my McDonald's games. We won't talk about that right now.
So this is the best honor you can have as a high school basketball player. What was it like for you taking the floor here, knowing that there was so much more for you in store, but with college coaches, NBA scouts watching?
2 parts. Number 1, it was fun because I got a chance to finally interact with all the guys I've been hearing about. Obviously, times have changed. These kids interact with each other already. And number 2, I got a chance once I set my foot across that line, Corey, I want to destroy everybody that I came here to compete against. I want to dominate. I want to see where I stood next to all the greats in my class.
And Jay, it was a very competitive game, as was my game in 1991, and you have an opportunity for it. And back then it was 20 guys, it wasn't even 24, but now 24 guys to really come out here and go at it. And oftentimes we haven't seen there's been more of a lob fest and a dunk contest, but I think we might have a chance to see these guys actually get after it and compete here tonight.
Jay, we've got 18 of the top 20 players in the ESPN 100 in this game, but who are you really looking forward to seeing?
Well, for Kentucky fans, potentially saying goodbye to Kevin Knox, say hello to Keldon Johnson. This kid is a stud. He had a quote before this whole week started. He said, I came here to dominate and to kill everyone that wants to challenge me. And he showed that in practice. He showed that the other day in the scrimmage. He has the size, he has the length. He still needs to work on that jump shot to make it more consistent. But Corey, as it regards him attacking the rim, he attacks the rim with authority, and I love just the competitive nature of this young man.
And Keldon Johnson, of course, right now is rated as the 6th best player in the class, but he's one of 5 wings that are in that top 6. Only Bol at number 4 is the only big outside of that. So this year, last year we know we had the bigs. This year it's the year of the wings, and when you look at these wings in the class, number 1, R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamson, and then you think about Cam Reddish, who maybe the most talented of this bunch, going Romeo Langford, Keldon Johnson. This group is extremely talented in the wings position, but there's one guy, in my opinion, where you think about his potential. When you think about Zion Williamson and what he could possibly be as a wing player moving forward, and his ability and his explosion off the floor, a great athlete, and is really growing as a basketball player, continuing to develop and going on to play with other great players at Duke. And he is spectacular. And of course, we've got our guy, Jeff Goodman, hanging out with Zion Williamson.
I am hanging out, and we got a capacity crowd here, Zion. And Jay Will and Corey Alexander want to see something they've never seen before. What do you got for them tonight?
We're just going to have to see.
All right, we'll wait. We'll see. What are you guys going to bring as a class? We got 4 of you from this game going to Duke and kind of replenishing what Duke's going to lose. What is this class going to bring to Durham next year?
I feel like we're going to bring a lot of talent, and with Coach K as our person to lead us with guidance, I feel like we're going to do a lot of damage next year.
All right, put on a show.
Got to.
All right, Mike.
Well, Jeff, he said we'll see. So hopefully some fireworks in store from the 6'7" forward out of Spartanburg, South Carolina. Starting lineup for the East, you've got Darius Garland signed to Vanderbilt. Romeo Langford could be headed to Nashville with R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamson, and Naz Reid, part of a great class for Will Wade at LSU. One of 3 undecided players in this game is E.J. Montgomery, native of Marietta, Georgia, considering Kentucky, Carolina, Duke, among others. He's on the reserves for the East squad.
Guys, I just want to give us some credit. We were able to get back here behind the booth in all but 5.5 seconds. Well, very impressive.
I almost clotheslined you.
You did
with the wire.
It was the matrix, and we had good flexibility.
You used the matrix, and I didn't know you were still that flexible.
Yes.
You know, looked pretty impressive.
Well, since that 5-minute Pilates class that Brooke gave me the other day.
So you need to really give the backstory there, because it wasn't like you did that willingly.
Yes.
You guys bet on the winner of the 3-point competition, and you lost.
I typically lose to Brooke every year. It's okay. I accept my place.
Starting 5 for the West, another future Dookie, Trey Jones with Quentin Grimes, Cam Reddish, Jordan Brown, one of the with Reggie Perry in the starting 5 as well. And as Corey mentioned before, one of the bigs, Bowl. He's going to Oregon. Darius Baisley out of Cincinnati is going to Syracuse.
Looking forward to seeing these guys. I thought they did a very good job yesterday of getting out into the scrimmage and competing against each other. And oftentimes when we look at these McDonald's All-American games and All-Star games in general, you see a lot of highlights, a lot of dunks and lobs. And of course, we want to see that, but we also want to see if these guys can get out there and be competitive and talk about taking on that guy in front of you, especially when you're looking at guys that may have a little bit of a higher ranking. And you see R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish, 2 guys headed to Duke, but number 1 and 3 players in the country. And you see right there, early defense, and that's what we've been looking for all week.
Pull-up is short off front iron, and the rebound by Naz Reid on the East team wearing the black uniforms and the West team in the white. Williamson with the rebound. Played well in the post. Straight up defense turns him away. Underneath, Barrett slams it home. Part of the #1 class, and Duke is bringing in the #1 class 3 of the last 4 years now.
And they have the #1, the #2, and #3 players rated in the country right now, all in the same recruiting class, to go along with the best point guard in the country, Trey Jones, who gets his first basket here in the McDonald's game.
You know, when you think about R.J. Barrett, his size, his length, rocking the 6 for the 6, Canada's finest. I mean, everything about him screams pro. Everything about him screams potentially first pick in the 2019 NBA draft. And the thing I love about him, Corey, he has the poise. You watched him in the scrimmage the other day. He would catch the ball in the pinch post, turn, face, hit you with a reverse pivot. He had a variety of skills around the basket, and he's a premier player in the ISO situation like that.
And you see him operating in the pick and roll, and he's a great ball handler, not just a good ball handler, but a great ball handler at 6'7", and he's not a guy that only wants to make plays for himself. He's a willing passer and extreme talent. But of course, you know, you think about R.J. Barrett and some of his greatest highlights, 38 points versus the U19 team, which really was the game, and in my opinion, that put him on the map, vaulted him to the #1 player, of course, reclassing up to the class of 2018, and you see just a little bit of his skill level.
And those are little things right there, like even coming off the screen, taking a second, not rushing it, bouncing back. I mean,
I know. You got to pause. Whenever
every time, Corey, every time Zion Williamson has the ball, I'm going to pause.
And a great pass by Darius Garland to get it ahead. And Darius Garland really starting to show off a lot more of his point guard play. That was one of the question marks about him, a tremendous shooter. But you see he's starting to become more of that point guard and playing the position really to be a great combo guard to go out and score as well as run a team.
So the winner of the Powerade Jam Fest getting to the rim early.
And I don't know how many of those the rim can withstand, but when you think about the amount of pressure he puts on a backboard, I don't know if he's broken any yet. I'm sure he's going to get one at some point in his career.
Can we give some love to the passer? I mean, when you think about Darius Garland, I mean, Vandy has never signed a McDonald's All-American before. He is the first that they're going to sign. And the thing you love about him, he has those quick twitch fibers, dangerous jumper, good handles. Defensively, he's next level because he's fast laterally. The things he's going to bring to the table for Bryce Drew just takes the recruiting class to another level.
And they've got Simi Shitu as well, another Canadian who unfortunately isn't playing. He tore his ACL in January, but they expect him back for the start of the season.
And we also talked about a little bit yesterday how Darius Garland has become the lead recruiter for Vanderbilt. So I honestly believe that you could see one, maybe two more McDonald's All-Americans when you consider Romeo Langford and E.J. Montgomery, both considering Vanderbilt. I think Darius Garland would land at least one of those guys to come play with him in Nashville.
Garland had it in his hands, taken away by Cam Reddish on the break. Nobody with him. And he flips it up and in.
And that's my guy right there. Cam Reddish, in my opinion, is just oozing talent. His ability to get out and play in transition, but also to be able to shoot the basketball, handle it, make plays for each other. Going to be interesting to watch all these guys at Duke next year. Pretty much positionless basketball for Coach K.
Reed to the basket.
And Jay, one of the most intriguing guys in this game would be Naz Reid, because you see his ability to put the ball on the floor and make plays, but at that size, his talent level is off the charts. Not in the greatest of shape coming into this game, in which a number of these guys have been off from their high school season for almost a month now. But you can see Will Wade is getting a gem at LSU.
Big shout out, speaking of LSU, to the Big Shaq. That video he put on the other day with LeBron down in Miami is Emmy-like. But speaking of great bigs that have played at LSU, talk about Stromile Swift, Tyrus Thomas, Johnny O'Brien, Ben Simmons for a second. Naz Reid will be in that conversation.
And when you look at it, I'm not sure if any of those guys, maybe Stromile was able to make a play like Naz just made on that one, but to go 94 feet with the beautiful reverse was special.
The pride of north of the border, R.J. Barrett with a couple of big dunks, and Zion stealing the show early here in Atlanta.
Good. Let's see.
Some of the past stars of the McDonald's All-American game. Zion Williamson, he'll be a star next year at Duke. I don't know who's more popular online, whether it's Zion or Jay. He's got 121,000 followers on Twitter, 1.4 million on Instagram because of what he's able to do at the rim. But next year, I think that's going to be a question of how does he expand his game from not just being a dunker to an all-around player.
Well, I believe that's one of the reasons why he went to Duke, is so that he doesn't have to carry the load for a team and do too much. As my man David McCormick operates very well on the interior with the beautiful left-hand layup. But Zion, you know, I think he goes there so he doesn't have to be the guy that opposing teams are keying on. When you're playing with the talent that he'll be playing with at Duke next year, he'll really get to expand his game by being a great rebounder and getting to play in transition, pushing the basketball, and finding guys like Cam Reddish and RJ capable of knocking down shots on the outside.
And this is the drive, the nuances of the game right here. The fact that he creates contact first. That frame, even though he misses the shot, I'm not worried about the shot. He understands that he's going to utilize that 260-pound frame to initiate the contact, which when he bounces off you, it actually allows you to stabilize yourself and finish those and-one type plays. I think you're going to see a lot of those plays in the next couple of years from Zion Williamson.
Jay, his athleticism overshadows his skill. He's a young man who has a very good handle. He puts the ball on the floor extremely well, makes the passes. Of course, he needs to improve with his jump shot, as pretty much all of these young players do. But that's the one area that you get better at as you get older. Everything else Zion has is definitely working in his favor.
Quinterly a miss on the floater, brought down by David McCormick, signed to play at Kansas, number 28 in the class. Second Oak Hill player in as many years to commit to Kansas after Billy Preston last year.
And David McCormick actually playing with a heavy heart, lost his grandmother, Grandma Daisy, last Tuesday. And she was very influential in getting him on the basketball court. His mother, Janine, wasn't a big fan of basketball, but Grandma Daisy was the one who got David on the court. And so, of course, playing with a heavy heart, but he knows that she's very proud of him for making this game.
And hearing what Steve Smith has had to say about him, the head coach at Oak Hill, that he started at around 300 pounds and has really done a lot of work to transform his frame.
He really did, and as a young man who takes his diet seriously, his conditioning and everything. And again, this is something that he made a decision to do. It wasn't as though, of course, he knew he needed to lose weight and get in better shape, but he was the guy who did it on his own. I mean, of course, you know, we love to give the credit to the Oak Hill Strength and Conditioning Program, which played a part, but Dave made a conscious decision to be able to go out and drop that weight. Now playing at 255 pounds, that's a big difference from where he was as a sophomore in high school.
I'll tell you, Who else needs to make a difference? I mean, Javon Quinterly is extremely talented. He's going to go and play at Villanova next year, but you have to find different ways to finish around the rim over the size and the length of guys like McCormick. That's going to become the norm on the collegiate level.
And of course, you went through it, I went through it, but talk about the adjustment that you have to have as a guard when you go from the high school level where you're able to dominate and be more athletic than everyone else compared to when you get to college and you have 6'10", 7-foot guys in there waiting on you when you get to the basket.
One of the first things I learned my freshman year was taking a heartbeat. So when you drive into the lane, instead of just going at full speed, just one heartbeat slows yourself down, and it gives you a chance to actually take a quick assessment of who's coming from which angle, where you can drop the pass off from, or how high of a floater you need to shoot over a guy like this.
Moses Brown getting out running the floor, gets the layup, and we'll go to the free throw line.
And speaking of running the floor, Devin Dotson, who may get the keys to the car at Kansas, getting out to Nasir Little. And Little, we talked about the wings. He was the guy that we didn't mention, but maybe one of the most impressive players here this week. He has really shown that his skill level is up to par with his athleticism and going to be a great get for Roy Williams at North Carolina.
Yeah, you think about Nasir Little and combine him with Kobe White. Kobe White actually leading the state of North Carolina in scoring over some big-time names, Michael Jordan, David Thompson.
I thought we agreed not to mention Mike.
You have to talk about Mike. I'm not saying he's better than Mike. People at home, calm down. Saying when you beat him in the scoring title, that's pretty impressive.
You're absolutely right. And we see Sticks getting out in the break. Okay, Dave wasn't in the McDonald's All-American Dunk Contest, but he got a few style points early with the windmill.
Think what that does for Bill Self as well. It gives him that high-low post presence that he's used to playing with. When you think Silvio De Sousa, who was able to kind of come back early, and now David McCormick down low.
Now the league that gives them a great opportunity to return to what would be a Final Four next year, especially when you think about the Lawson twins will be eligible. Charlie Moore will be available to play for Kansas next year. A number of transfers sitting out for Bill Self. So the rich continue to get richer, and Dave McCormick really adds to the front court depth of Kansas next year.
Quinterly had space on the three. He missed it.
Good pass.
And the Bigs able to get it in. Moses Brown finishing it off once again. The West up by 2. But it's the East getting to the bucket. David McCormick. Windmill. Maybe he should have been in the dunk contest on Monday.
Wouldn't have mattered. Zion still would have won.
Back here in Atlanta, Phillips Arena, West by 2, 11:23 in the first. Let's go to Jeff Goodman with Naz Reid.
So now 6'10", 250. You look like a point guard out there. Where'd you get those skills from?
No, just working on my game every day. You know, I had to play high school. I'm a point guard in high school, so why not transition to here?
So you're from New Jersey, yet you're signed to go to LSU playing Baton Rouge. Why?
You know, Coach Will Wade, you know, he was able to make me feel home away from home. You know, obviously the basketball speaks for itself. You know, with the incoming recruits, you know, me, Darius Days, Emmett Williams, Javonte Smart. You know, they got Tremont. You know, so, you know, it's going to be a great experience there.
Wait. There's something you're not telling me here. There's something you're hiding about why you went to LSU. Part of the reason. What is it?
You know, my girlfriend, she played a big part in it as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, girlfriend. We get it. The girls, right? Mike, Jay, Corey.
It's all right, Jeff. Let him follow the love. Follow the love, Naz. Follow the love.
He's going to join a great class there. Give Will Wade a lot of credit for what he's been able to do in his first true recruiting class at LSU. Javonte Smart not playing in this game, but one of the top point guards in the country. Love him as a winner. It'll be interesting to see how that all meshes together.
One of the things I love about Naz Reid is that when you talk about all the other players in the class, a lot of the other players get the hype. That kid should not be in high school. I mean, 6'11", 255 pounds, the fact that he can do that with the basketball, Will Wade has a gem in that kid. He's going to be a beast down low on the block.
And Javonte Smart in the backcourt, the number 35 player in the ESPN 100. Reed, number 22 in the class at a Roselle Catholic High School, a two-time New Jersey State champion, and the first guy out of that area to be a McDonald's All-American since J.R. Smith back in 04.
A couple talented players to come out of Jersey. Give
yeah,
Jersey
we all right. We holding tough.
Whoa, I wasn't talking about you.
Well, you know, you give Oak Hill Academy some more love on this broadcast, we're going to have a problem.
Well, Jay, did you know Oak Hill has made the most contributions to the McDonald's All-American game? 32.
Glad you said it, Mike. Wasn't me.
You know what's impressive, though, is that behind them, DeMatha Catholic, has 12.
Oh.
And Finley Prep has 12, which has only been around since 2006. Tells you the type of players they've been getting there in Las Vegas.
Is somebody going to take a charge on Zion Williamson, or they're going to let them beat him 1-on-4?
Let me ask you this, Jay. When you were 17 years old playing in this game way back in 1999, would you have taken a charge on Zion Williamson coming down?
I would have tried, or I would have fouled him.
Okay, I can respect
Here's my thing. I just want to see these kids compete. Like that's the challenge for me. I know they're so talented. I know we have a lot of NBA prospects on the floor. But the next level for them mentally is you come out here and you try to lock up. You try to embarrass somebody. And I'm not saying and one mixtape 101. You embarrass them with your effort, because I don't think the effort is there anymore as much as it used to be.
You know what's going to be embarrassing? Trying to take a charge on Zion Williamson.
That's true. That's true.
But I get what you're saying, and I think that these guys actually have done better than they had in the past. Zion slipped on that one, trying to go behind the back to get to the rim.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're going to see the last play. This is 1-on-4.
Well, and also
1-on-4.
This is his guy Cam Reddish recognizing his future teammate that he does not want to be in the dorm with next year, thinking, hey, you remember when I dunked on you in the McDonald's
Well, I'll
game?
tell you one thing. He'll get pulled out of the game next year if he pulls out of the way like that.
Absolutely. How many times did you get pulled out of the game?
So many times. I was not known for my defensive prowess.
Amen, brother. I can respect that.
Did you know the hook was coming too?
Oh, yeah. I would say that's why I tried to get a jack up before I got the hook. Got to get a quick shot up.
Barrett at the line. He's got the first. And later tonight, it's off to Salt Lake City for our NBA matchup as Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz are on the West playoff bubble, leading every game down the stretch. They take on the Celtics, 9:30 Eastern, 7:30 Mountain Time, with coverage starting with NBA Countdown on ESPN and the ESPN app. Donovan Mitchell, not a McDonald's All-American, but a guy who's taken off this year with Utah.
And you see that play right there. Trey Jones, the communication with Quentin Grimes for the backdoor easy dunk. And again, that's not against bad defense. There was no help defense on that possession. But yet, that really shows you what Trey Jones is about. His ability to make plays as a point guard, and just, that's one of those things. And Jay, you know it as you were a pseudo point guard. I mean, you were a lead guard. That's what I think Dick Vitale used to call us back in the day, lead guards, guys that led the team in scoring and everything else,
exactly.
And shot attempts. But that type of communication between he and Grimes right there just shows you just a bit of what Trey Jones is as a point guard.
R.J. Barrett hitting the three-point shot. He's got a busy week, starting here at McDonald's and then going up to Geico High School Nationals, where #1 seeded Montbird plays tomorrow at 6 p.m. 38-32, East in front.
You talk about a generational level dunker.
What was that?
Very hard. That's what that was.
So bold, so brave, and it's straight 10s for Zion. Zion, yes, sir! As soon as he said Z-I-O-N on the piece of paper, the contest was over.
Welcome back to Atlanta and the 2018 McDonald's All-American Boys Game. Mike Cousins, Jay Williams, Corey Alexander, and Jeff Goodman. Glad to have you with us. Zion Williamson, the winner of the dunk contest at the Powerade Jam Fest. Shout out to Olivia Nelson-Ododa, though, who scored a 100 on her first dunk. #5 in the class going to UConn. She was impressive.
She's going to UConn, too? Oh, my.
Her and Kristen Williams, they just keep doing it.
#1 and #5 in the class are going to UConn.
Goodness.
Hey, Corey, I got a question for you. Last year we did this game, and we saw a guy in Trae Young that had a pretty decent game here, but we didn't expect him to blow up the way he did on the college basketball scene this year. Ray and his family probably did. Who's going to be that surprise player in this class?
We talked about him earlier. You talked about him earlier. Honestly, in my opinion, the surprise in next year is Kobe White. I think Kobe White goes to North Carolina and gives them exactly what they need. He gives them that shooting. His speed is off the charts. Now, I'm not sure he'll play the point guard position, but when he gets the ball in his hands and the way that Roy Williams likes to play, I think 94 feet, Kobe White can make a difference. But his shooting, I think, helps them extremely you know, when you think about what they're able to do on the offensive end of the floor and how they love to play, they need a guy like that to stretch the floor. And you throw Nasir Little beside him, you got a pretty good combination of players going to Carolina next year.
Yeah, Luke May will be back. Seventh Woods will be back. We'll see how they can play together in the backcourt. But obviously one of the top recruiting classes in the nation. Also lose Joel Berry, Theo Pinson. But when you have guys like Kobe White and Nasir Little to come right in right away, it fits the kind of personnel that Roy Williams loves to have on the court.
And North Carolina getting back into that level of where they're going out, getting elite level recruiting classes. Since the Theo Pinson, Joel Berry class, they really haven't had that elite level recruiting class. But now you see, to replace those guys, you've got some special talent coming in. And then Rashawn Leaky Black, you know, they have him listed as a small forward, but he's a guy that may be a point guard in that system. And we talked about Little, and he continues to impress as he has all week. His ability to put the basketball on the floor, take the bump, the contact, and he's got a grown man body already. He's already prepared for college basketball physically.
I'll say this. North Carolina maybe hasn't had some of the top recruiting classes for the last couple of years, but all they've done is just gone to back-to-back championship games. So Roy has found a way, regardless of whether they're getting top recruits or not, he gets them to buy into the way he likes to play, and they buy into the culture of what North Carolina basketball is about.
Well, and you know, college basketball is what we do. That's our livelihood. And from that standpoint, you look at it, do elite level recruiting classes get you to the Final Four in that first year, especially?
Not this year.
I mean, it didn't this year. I mean, it happened with Duke in 2015, and it happened with Kentucky in 2012. But outside of that, you don't see much of that in college basketball. So you've got to get some guys that, of course, are going to stick around for a few years and be special when they're juniors and seniors.
You mentioned it, Corey, from an historical perspective of Duke and Kentucky doing it. But just look at the Final Four now and how many one-and-done candidates you have. And the number is real small.
It really is. I believe we did the numbers. I want to say that there's 3 McDonald's All-Americans in the – no, let's be fair. Most of the guys that play in this game are in college 1 year and they're gone to the NBA. You know, so, you know, you have to take that into consideration. But when we look at the classes, both Duke and Kentucky since 2014 with 23 top 100 recruits, you know, and they have done it better than anyone else. But when you get a guy like, for example, like a Trae Young, who's able to stay home and make a huge impact at his spot, you know, that McDonald's All-Americans can be more productive in different places.
You know, it's amazing, guys, right now, and I wrote a story about it today, how Coach K has turned the tables on Calipari. And you look at this class and what he's got, 1, 2, 3, and Trae Jones, who's arguably as good point guard as there is in the country. And I asked the question to a lot of people, why has Coach K all of a sudden been able to dominate Calipari? And the only reason I can think of, guys, is still the leftovers from that Olympic team. And not only the relationships he's got with LeBron and some of the stars in the NBA, but also the relationships and the access he's been able to have with some of those young kids coming up through the Olympic program.
And Jeff, one of the things that Coach K in his statement made about the young man that just left his program, Jeff Capel, moving on, and Jeff was with Coach K with USA Basketball as well as at Duke. How much of an impact do you think that makes on Duke being able to go out and get these type of recruiting classes now that Jeff Capel has moved on to Pittsburgh?
Huge. I mean, absolutely huge. I actually just broke it that Duke is going to bring in Chris Carrawell to replace Jeff Capel. Carrawell, an assistant at Marquette the last few years for Wojo. And obviously, Capel's an elite recruiter. Now, you can say what you want about him, that he's had K behind him, but Capel's been able to do what a lot of other Duke assistants were unable to do before him and get elite recruits. So it's going to be interesting to see what type of impact his departure will have.
Back and forth we go. Quickly drops it off. A two-hand jam for Jalen Smith, who's going to Maryland, number 15 player in the country. Lob at the other end. Whoa! Nasir Little off the trampoline for the dunk.
You imagine him in transition next year for the Tar Heels?
Oh, and you know how much they love to play in transition, and you get guys pushing the basketball like Seventh Woods can, like Kobe White can.
Well, it's like a Theo Pinson. It's like a taller, more athletic Theo Pinson. Now, I would say he's going to play with the same poise that Theo Pinson obviously played with this year. I think we saw Theo Pinson really mature as a player and come into his own. But Nasir Little is a triple-double waiting to happen every now.
And you're also talking about a senior Theo Pinson.
Exactly.
I mean, we saw Theo Pinson playing in the McDonald's game 5 years ago. And, of course, I'm not sure if he was even on the level that Nasir Little is right now, especially physically.
Dotson with the finger roll. Talking to Paul Biancardi, who was here yesterday, now in New York City for the Geico High School Nationals. He said Nasir Little and Jalen Smith, two of the guys who, from this point last year, he feels like made the biggest leaps in expanding their games.
All right, I just want to see some defense now. I want to see people actually try to lock in.
Yeah, it's
just a little bit. Like, I don't want. This is great. Dunks are cool.
You gonna lay him like that?
Out of bounds, and the ball coming back the other way when we return.
And we talked about North Carolina's elite level recruiting class, where you can't throw it too high for Nasir Little as he raises up and then showing off just a bit of his ball handling for the beautiful finish.
My man Sexton loves the lights. Wants the moment, wants the shot.
Sexton got it! He got it! He got it! Colin Sexton, number 7 in the ESPN 100 a year ago. One player can do so much for a program, and that's what the hope is for Kansas with Quentin Grimes, number 8 in the class. They pull the full staff visit on him in home multiple times.
Well, and they have to, and you're talking about a young man, a 6'5" combo guard. And, of course, Bill Self knew how good Malik Newman is. We saw Malik Newman here, 3-4 years ago. We knew how good he was. But Malik Newman, as well as he's playing right now, it will be difficult to see him stick around. I mean, to think that he would stick around at Kansas this year. Quentin Grimes could go right in and try to pick up the slack for the Jayhawks next season.
Hey, just by the way, I want to give a shout out to Colin Sexton. You talk about what a year he's had. And when you look at the style of basketball in which he plays, he was like a collegiate version of Russell Westbrook. I mean, he doesn't pass the ball like Russell Westbrook, but that mentality in which he attacks the rim and the way he plays with that ambition reminds you of Russell.
I'm with you on that, and he doesn't pass the ball as well as Russell Westbrook in a college system. But I think he's that type of guard to where when you play in the open space that you play with in the NBA.
24-second shot clock.
And of course, no zones. And so when you think about, I think he can be, again, it's hard to imagine anyone being Westbrook, but the mentality as to which Colin Sexton plays, I think, gives him an opportunity to be at that level type of guy. And he, of course, is extremely athletic to give him a chance.
Brown showing off a nice left hand, one of 3 undeclared players in this game. He's the forward out of Roseville, California. Another guy who's uncommitted in this game is Romeo Langford, down to 3 schools for the guard out of New Albany, Indiana. It's Indiana, Kansas, and Vanderbilt. And at number 5 in the class, he's the top unsigned player left in the ESPN 100.
And Langford, a special talent. And again, his ability to shoot the basketball, sets him apart from many of the guys that he played against. When you look at all these uncleared players, now Anthony Simons, in all honesty, may not end up going to college.
He's going to the NBA draft.
He's going to put his name in the draft. So
yes, he did.
I don't know if he's even going to be a part of that. E.J. Montgomery, who is a young man who is extremely skilled, playing here tonight, and really started out as a player that was always playing up and not often getting an opportunity to really show off his talent level, but yet he's a guy that's really started to come into his own here recently.
Yeah, Romeo Langford, you talk about, people have compared the hysteria in Indiana to like Damon Bailey back in the day. I mean, people were packing out gyms, waiting for him. He's signing autographs for hours after games. I can't wait for him to make his decision. My fiance is all over me. She's an IU grad. All of her family lives in Carmel, Indiana. All they keep talking about is Romeo Langford is the answer to all of IU's problems. That would do huge wonders for Archie Miller's recruiting class.
Let's find out more about him. Here's Jeff.
All right, so Romeo, it's March 28th, and you still haven't made a decision yet. What's the latest with your recruitment?
Right now, I'm just trying to enjoy myself at these All-Star games I've been invited to and Hoop Summit, and I plan on making a decision around the end of April.
Still the same 3 schools?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Jay Will was just saying his fiance is an IU grad, so you got a little bit of pressure there.
I guess so. Yes, sir.
So I was also told that if I could get you to smile, one college coach told me they'd give me $10. So I know you're pretty even keel here. Can you give me something? There we go. There we go. All right, I like it. I like it. All right, have fun the rest of the game. All right, Mike.
Jeff, are you that hard up for $10?
I'm not sure.
I need dinner.
And I'm not sure that's legal. I don't know if he needs to accept that $10, Jeff. Don't do it.
Impermissible benefits? Is that what we're saying?
Impermissible reporter benefits. Yeah.
Get that money, Jeff. We'll be waiting for you at the hotel lobby bar after the scrimmage.
And you mentioned Romeo Langford, and you see Darius Garland out here making plays. A beautiful feed earlier to David McCormick. And again, Garland getting into the paint, finding McCormick, unable to finish on that one. But Darius Garland and Romeo Langford in the backcourt at Vanderbilt, that could be a very special backcourt, just like we see a special athlete on the floor in Zion Williamson.
And this is not a knock to KU, because I think KU is a great school, but you would think how they are with all their transfers or some of the top recruiting class they have already.
And Quentin
Grimes. Is that an overload at a position for a guy like Romeo Langford, where maybe a Vandy or an Indiana would be better fits because of the opportunity to play more?
Well, you and I both made our decisions based upon where we could go in and have a success as a freshman. And so if you look at Romeo Langford, and not to say that he can't do that at Kansas, but it seems as though Indiana and Vanderbilt are both opportunities for him to walk in right away and have a major impact.
R.J. Barrett headed to the free throw line after hanging and scoring.
By the way, that's what I really like about R.J. Barrett, okay? He just got an and one, and you didn't see him laugh. You didn't see him throw his hands up in the air. There was no celebration. He expects to do that every single play. If he had missed the and one opportunity, then you would have seen an annoyed face.
And I think one of the things that you mentioned about him earlier, he's going to be a much better pro than he is a college player. I mean, not to say that he's not going to be really good at Duke, but this guy is one of those guys who is destined to be a pro. When you look at his size and his skill, it projects much better at the NBA level than it does for him when he has to play against the zones that he plays against in college basketball.
We'll have the women's Final Four from Columbus, Ohio, starting Friday on ESPN2, 7 and 9 Eastern. Louisville, Mississippi State, and then UConn takes on Notre Dame. Both games presented by Capital One and streaming live on the ESPN app. For Barrett, as you mentioned, too, the high level that he's played at ever since he left Canada early in his high school career to go down, play for Montverde, playing the best teams in the country, playing for Canada basketball, this level is just the normal for him.
It really is, and he's a young man that really has a very business-like approach to the game of basketball. More than just a scorer, he is a triple-double threat. 6'7", can rebound, can push the ball, can make plays off the dribble, but also his ability to shoot at that nice lefty stroke sets him apart. That's the reason he's the #1 player in the class. Also
playing for Kevin Boyle, too. Kevin Boyle once coached St. Patrick's High School, New Jersey, had the likes of Al Harrington, also Kyrie Irving. So having that kind of coaching over you consistently really helps him.
One of the best in the country, national champs 3 of the last 5 years at Montverde. We'll learn more about R.J. Barrett coming up. A look inside his game at the half here in Atlanta at the break, 63-54. Welcome back to Atlanta. Halftime of the 41st annual McDonald's All-America game as East meets West. We've got 18 of the top 20 in the ESPN 100, including the #1 player in the country, R.J. Barrett, who helps us get to know a little bit more about himself.
R.J. Barrett from Canada, and I'm the player of the year. Life in Canada is different because it's more of a hockey culture. I was a freshman when I moved to Florida to go to Montverde Academy. Definitely helped. The competition's been strong. Montverde was the 2-time national champions before I came here, and we're trying to do that this year too. It was after a Raptors game. I was able to meet Kyrie, T-Mac, Kevin Love, LeBron. I was surprised of how humble they were, and they're NBA stars, but they're really down to earth. Biggest thing I've learned while being at Montverde is just work ethic and how hard you have to work to be the best, and I still have a lot to grow. Duke, it's a lot like Montverde Academy. It's very diverse. Also, Coach K is a great coach, and my biggest thing with him was he's coached Team USA, and he was able to make them play together, so he would definitely be able to make, 4 kids play together. My game, I like to be able to do everything. My favorite player is LeBron, so just being able to watch him and see how he reads the floor. And I just want to be able to do everything on the court and not have any limitations. The Ronald McDonald's house was definitely a great experience, being able to see all the kids and putting a smile on their face, you know, just being able to play with them and really brighten up their day. Poutine, they don't really have that in America, but also speaking French, because we don't speak Spanish in Canada. Mon nom est RJ Barrett et je suis le McDonald's joueur de l'année.
Only fitting that the #1 player in the ESPN 100 is part of the #1 class at Duke, which Coach K has had now in 3 of the last 4 years. And Barrett and his Montverde team, #1 seed at the Geico High School Nationals. Tomorrow they play at 6 p.m. The McDonald's All-American Games have a rich history of amazing athletes, but there's another rich history at the heart of this game. On Sunday, the players visited the local Ronald McDonald House and Children's Hospital. It was an eye-opening experience, one of the boys said. When you see how happy a high five can make a kid, you realize what the point of this game is. And this year's All-American Games benefit Atlanta Ronald McDonald House Charities, serving more than 50,000 families since 1979. And of course, looking ahead, Thursday is a big day for Major League Baseball. All 30 teams have their openers, and we'll have a quadruple header for you on ESPN and ESPN Deportes. We start at 12:30 Eastern with Cubs Marlins. Then the World Series champs take on the Rangers at 3:30. Matt Vasgersian, A-Rod, and Jessica Mendoza have Giants Dodgers at 7, and Indians Mariners cap off the day at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific from Seattle. All 4 games also streaming live on the ESPN app. At the half in Atlanta, more to come when we return. The McDonald's All-American Game here in Atlanta for the first time since 1992 at the half between East and West as the Stars have come to play. Corey and Jay caught up with one of the biggest names in this game.
Welcome to halftime. We're lucky enough to spend some time with one of the top-rated players in the class, Zion Williamson. Zion, first of all, let me ask you why your decision to go to Duke than other schools? Because people were talking about you going to Clemson, being at home. What helped you with that decision?
Just Coach K. He's a very influential man, and I want to be surrounded by the best. So with Trey, Cam, RJ, we're going to push each other hard every day at practice, and it's going to make us better players. And with Coach K's guidance, we'll be able to compete in the ACC.
And Zion, for everything that you've been through, the attention that you receive as a player, and of course on social media, we've been around you all week. You're a very humble young man. How do you stay grounded?
I just like to thank my parents for that. They have a way of keeping me balanced with basketball, social media, and then being a normal 17-year-old.
A normal 17-year-old. There's nothing normal about you. I'm looking at my arms next to your arms. There's nothing normal about you. I just tried to flex there on TV, by the way, too. So tell me, how has it been? I mean, every time you put up a post, it's getting over millions of hits. Like, how do you have a normal life?
I'm just thanking my high school for that. Spartanburg Day School. It's a very small school. The high school is probably 150 kids, maybe. So they see me every day. It's not like, oh my God, there's Zion right there. They treat me like a regular high school kid, and I love them for that.
I heard that the whole recruiting thing got started off with a text message. Is that true? Oh, look, I'm putting stuff out there, right? This is a players-only conversation.
What do you mean?
Well, with 1.4, followers on Instagram and all your social media, dunking is why you're known for the most. You're a great basketball player, but people know you from dunking. Take us through some of what you had going on last night. Now, I wanted to see a specific dunk from you. I told you that you didn't pull out. But tell us a little bit about what you did pull out last night.
That right there, that's a simple off the backboard between the legs. I missed the first 3 tries because I was trying to dunk it too hard. And, the goal was a little low, so.
I just want you to know that nobody else in the world will call that simple but you, okay?
This one, I love this dunk because it's with my right hand, my offhand. And I basically take the ball and try to hit it with my other foot. This one is just a lob 360 pump.
This one was good. I like this one, but there was one that's coming up next that we're about to show that I've heard you've been able to land it before. I actually think your missed dunk was the best dunk try of the. I've never seen it before. Have you nailed that? It was, what is it, 360 off the bounce with the left hand?
The 360 scoop. Yeah, Darius, Garland, Cam Reddish, RJ, and Trey, they were telling me, Zion, you got to pull it out, because they were saying I already had the win. I said, you know what, I'll try it 1 or 2 times. But I missed it, so then I just did like a little Dominique Wilkins dunk for the, I don't even know what you call it.
I love something simple. But
everything is so simple, or this little Dominique Wilkins.
Right. So here's my thing. All right. So you get out on the break. Jay and I both work in the ACC, so we'll be calling your games next year. When you get out on the break and we stand up, even behind with our headsets on, stand up behind the bench, do you pull off that stuff knowing that if you miss it, you've got Coach K on the sideline?
You know, I already told everybody this. Next year in college, I'm going to be taking it easy with all them dunks. I'm going to probably just drop it in the goal and get back on defense.
You will get booed.
You know what?
At Cameron Indoor, you might get booed.
He won't get booed.
Would you rather get booed or stay in the game?
Well, there you go, Zion Williamson. He'll be staying in the game a lot next year. Check him out for SportsCenter Top 10 Duke next year. You'll be seeing a lot of them.
He makes it look easy, as did Dominique. Another guy who does as well, Donovan Mitchell. Tonight we're in Salt Lake City for our NBA game. Mitchell and the Jazz on the West playoff bubble, so every game is big. They'll take on the Celtics in this one at 9:30 Eastern, 7:30 Mountain Time. And our coverage tips with NBA Countdown on ESPN and the ESPN app. More coverage here from Atlanta, the McDonald's All-American Games 2018 on the other side. Welcome back to the 2018 McDonald's All-American Boys game here in Atlanta, Georgia. Getting ready for the start of the second half.
He's getting ready for Luda weekend. That's what he's getting ready for.
We promise you, this is the only place you will see Ludacris and Ronald McDonald.
What is Ronald McDonald doing with his hands? I don't know what that is.
That's called the Hamburglar.
Yeah.
That was DTC, disturbing the court.
Yeah,
Ronald McDonald
I like that.
getting down. So we got 20 minutes in the books. We've got ourselves a 63-54 game. A lot of scoring. So what stands out to you from the first half?
It would probably have to be the play of R.J. Barrett, and it's just the way he plays. It's the style in which he attacks each and every possession. Defensively, he's locked in because he's guarding Cam Reddish. I like that matchup for him. And offensively, he's taking baskets where he can get it. Pinch post in transition, and he's a hell of an ISO player.
And we know about R.J. Barrett and what he's capable of, but I really like what Quentin Grimes was able to do earlier in the game. And Quentin Grimes has had an impressive week here in front of the scouts at McDonald's All-American game and continues to show all the different aspects of his game, knocking down the jumper and then showing off his high-level athleticism. Finished second to Zion Williamson in the dunk contest, which is basically like winning because no one else really had a chance, right?
So here's a look at some of the top scorers. Corey has crumpled up his stat sheet and thrown it somewhere. I don't know where you put it.
I was looking for a basket, but I probably missed.
R.J. Barrett, however, is the leading scorer. 14 points for him, 5 of 6 from the floor. He's with Jeff.
So, R.J., your dad has been prepping you for this for years. In fact, tell us a little story about how he used to get you prepared for interviews.
He used to make me, get a fork and speak in front of my family. And it was embarrassing, but, it's getting me ready for moments like these.
So you also had a board where you listed your goals when you were younger. Tell me about some of those goals and what you had on there.
One of the ones was being the MVP of the, McDonald's game, and I'm here and I have a chance to get that, so.
Well, you got 14 points and you're well on your way. Good luck.
Thank you.
Mike?
All right, Jeff, we'll see what he does in the second half. Only player to be over 10 points on the East team as they lead 63-54. Zion Williamson, 8 points, 4 of 8 from the floor. Those two guys both headed to Duke next year, the numbers 1 and 2 players in the senior class. Trey Jones going to join them at Duke as well. You talk about how they're getting 1, 2, 3, and it's the first time in the ESPN 100 era that's happened that any school has gotten the top 3. And so Trey Jones, the top point guard in the class, sometimes gets overlooked because he's only ranked 12th in the country.
He does, but he's the guy that's really mainly responsible for that happening. When you talk about the players putting together packages for teams, for players to go play together, Trey Jones is really the driving force behind the recruiting class at Duke.
Yeah, Jay, you tried to get it out of Zion, asking him about the text thread that Trey Jones has been the leader of there. He didn't want to give it up, but that has been an important part of it, is those guys keeping in communication and being able to recruit each other.
Yeah, Trey Jones, he's so cerebral in the way he sees the floor, and his brother Tyus Jones playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves right now. And you like the way he does. He gets everybody to be on the same page, Corey. That's the most important part about him from a leadership perspective.
Interesting to see, Jay, and we see some defense there by Keldon Johnson, and you talked about him and his motor, especially on the offensive end of the floor. And we've been asking these guys to defend and play hard this week. So you said in the second half, Keldon Johnson getting off with a great individual play, and then Nasir Little with the nice defensive play. Haven't seen many fouls called in this game, but definitely don't want to call them when we actually got guys going out there playing defense. That might discourage them.
Corey, you said it in the locker room the other day when we were talking to some of the players before the practice. You know, when you hear an NBA scout says he plays with a great motor, all of a sudden that's a skill set that deserves praise. You know, and I'm not sound like a guy that says get off my lawn, that type of guy, but you know, 10 years ago that wasn't something that was even said. It was expected that guys came out and played hard each and every possession.
It was a prerequisite. It was one of the things that, and again, our McDonald's All-American game, mine in 1991, yours in 1999, they were competitive games. It was guys on the court that everyone wanted to win, and you also wanted to go out and really allow your light to shine brighter than the guys you were playing against. And that's what I liked about what R.J. Barrett said to Jeff Goodman. One of the things on his list was to be the MVP of this game. It wasn't just to make it. He wanted to be the MVP. He wants to show that he's the best player in this game. And again, that's the type of mentality that he attacks with, which makes him the best player in the country right now.
Because it's easy to think that you've made it to this game. It's a huge advancement as part of your high school career. But something that people don't see tonight with a huge crowd here in Atlanta is that you go back to Monday night at the Hawks practice facility, and the majority of the people in that gym who weren't players were NBA scouts.
Well, and that's the thing, is what all they're looking to see is who's going to actually compete. All of these guys are special talents at this age, but what sets you apart, the reason why Russell Westbrook was the NBA most valuable player last year is because he competed as often as he possibly could every play out for 82 straight games. Of course, he put up triple-double average over the season, but he was able to do that because of the way he approaches the game.
Hey, guys, Romeo Langford, he just got a shot blocked. He got a foul, but he's been going to work. I mean, the young man averages 33.4 points per game, 9.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. He has a 6'10 wingspan, scored 63 points against Jennings County. I mean, he got a standing ovation at the end of that ball game. His ability to stretch out the defense with that pure shot, also use that length to attack the rim off the dribble. There's no doubt about it. He's one of the best bona fide scorers we have in this game.
His high school career ended on a buzzer beater in the state semis this year at New Albany High School, where he played for Jim Shannon and finished his career 4th in Indiana history, 3,002 points. Not far behind number 1, Damon Bailey, who had 3,134. Here comes Naz Reid, number 22 in the ESPN 100, and he finishes at the bucket, the 6'11 big man out of Asbury Park, New Jersey.
And that's even more impressive because he was able to do it. Wait a minute. Sorry. Let me pause for a second. When Keldon Johnson does stuff like that, it kind of threw me off track. But Keldon going 94 feet. No defense played on that one, but yet the finish was extremely productive. But what made Naz's move so impressive was that he was able to do it against Darius Bazley, a very good defender. Keldon Johnson taking off, wearing that 23. Got to be careful wearing that number. When you talk about the guys that have worn the number 23 in the McDonald's All-American game, we start with Mike and then LeBron.
Number 6 in ESPN Top 100, number 3 small forward. Like I said earlier, he has that killer mentality, has the size, and has that length as well. And, you know, if Hamidou Diallo lead, I mean, it's just who he is as a player. Kevin Knox is extremely talented for Kentucky. There's no doubt about it. And, you know, we haven't yet to determine if he's going to leave for the draft. You probably assume that he is. But you know, one of the things people had said about Kevin Knox is that he seemed a little bit passive at times. Now, I think he matured into being a little bit more aggressive this year. But Keldon Johnson brings that mentality right from the hunt. He's always hunting a shot, and he always gets lost in the game.
And that's one of the lost arts in this game, Jay. Having guys that are aggressive at all times, like for just attack the rim aggressively. But having guys that don't take plays off, it's honestly a special skill now, and Keldon Johnson is one of those guys that has it.
Nice 3. Beautiful sound. And Langford running the floor again, drops it back for E.J. Montgomery, one of the 3 undeclared players in this game, ranked number 16 in the class, originally committed to Auburn, was committed there for about 2 years, and now considering the likes of Kentucky, North Carolina, and Duke, and saying this week that Vanderbilt, Wake Forest, and Georgetown are also in the mix as well for him. A guy who's been on the big stage for a long time, Corey. Even when he was in 8th grade, he was playing up with the 17 and under kids.
Yeah, when he was a freshman and sophomore, he was actually the #2 player in this class. You know, E.J. Montgomery's been in the mix for a long time. Unlike a guy like Darius Baisley, who continues to get better and better every time you see him, and he'll be a special player out there extending that zone for Jim Boeheim at Syracuse next year. But you see, he's a guy that can get after defensively one-on-one, is taking on the challenge.
Reed puts it up for Montgomery. Little tries the 3, got it. Little with the lob, right hand finish for Keldon Johnson, number 6 player in the class, signed to Kentucky.
I love that raising the roof is coming back in.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day. I'm not sure if I was just getting older, was I seeing that again, or if that was coming back.
Oh, it's happening.
Everything's a flat circle, Jay. We were talking before we came on the air today. We were watching you in the 2006 McDonald's game. The jerseys there were huge and baggy.
So are the 4 buttons coming back? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay, I'm just checking.
The 4-button suit. That was Jason. Jay does not wear a 4-button suit.
No, fitted suits.
Romeo Langford, his college choice, still up in the air. So is he, getting up with Keldon Johnson. A couple of nice finishes. Back in Atlanta, the McDonald's All-American game here for just the 3rd time, and the first time since '92. The West squad led by Brad Lowers, head coach at A.J. Diamond High School in Anchorage, Alaska. 24th year as a head coach at his alma mater. And John Mirabello, one of the best coaches in the state of Connecticut. 30 years as a head coach. The court named for him at Northwest Catholic High School in West Hartford, Connecticut.
And both these coaches did a great job during the week getting these guys to go out and execute in the scrimmage and in practice. And of course, when we get to the game, we're not going to see any of that. I don't really think that they expected anything different, but I thought the coaches did a really good job coaching these guys up over the week and really trying to get them to compete during the private sessions.
Well, you don't necessarily get to come here and be a coaching tactician, but it is a great honor to be selected, just one high school coach for each team out of the entire country.
It's a tremendous honor, not only for the coaches, but for the players as well. And the players should represent that honor by competing. And I'm going to be frank with you, I love the McDonald's All-American game. It's one of the favorite things I have to look forward to the entire year. But this game has been in particular a little bit difficult to watch because I don't think guys are really competing. And that's a problem I have. I think guys need to cherish the opportunity of what it means to actually put on a jersey and play a game in front of the likes of the nation right now.
And when you and I talked to the guys yesterday before the scrimmage, one of the things that we asked them to do was kind of take lead from what we saw in the NBA All-Star game this year. And so, you know, from that standpoint, we wanted these guys to be able to come out and compete and be a part of it, just like we saw LeBron James and Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant step up this year and compete in the NBA All-Star game. That's one of the things we asked these guys to allow that to trickle down from the guys who are really setting, you know, the paces to which this game is supposed to be played.
Zion soaring in, misses the dunk, and the ball out of bounds stays here.
You know, and one of the things about that play, Mike, and although he misses it, you see Zion Williamson, and the one thing that you recognize, this is not his left hand. He's left-handed. That's his right hand taking off the left foot right-handed. So that's completely opposite, but that just shows you the stream level athlete that he is. Jay, this is one of the dunks that you were most impressed with. Not even the fact that he made the dunk, but the attempt. Zion Williamson, and he's had a tremendous number of missed dunks that were highlights within themselves, not even all necessarily the ones that he makes.
It goes back to the poise when we were talking about R.J. Barrett. So Darius Garland made the inbound pass to the short corner, ran around him to the top of the key, and it was an icy situation with Cam Reddish and R.J. Barrett. And the fact that R.J. Barrett took a second to take a back step, slow down, recognize which way Cam Reddish wanted him to drive, and utilize that to get to the free throw line goes to show you about the basketball IQ that R.J. Barrett has.
Jeff?
You know, when Duke got Zion Williamson, it was a complete shock to everybody. Cam Reddish, I was talking to, and he said he was on the bus back from a game, and he was completely shocked because, again, nobody really figured he would end up at Duke with him already having R.J. Barrett, already having Cam Reddish, two guys that kind of played a position that he wants to play, which is partially on the perimeter. But now they've got this class, and Zion also, think about this, he was 25 pounds heavier a couple months ago. He told me because of an injury, he gained some weight, and he was still dunking like he's dunking now.
You know, we mentioned earlier today the Duke commits and the Duke signees finding out about Jeff Capel leaving. They on the bus after practice yesterday, headed back to the hotel. You know, and of course Zion actually has not signed yet his national letter of intent. So we talked to him about, said, does this affect anything that, you know, but he did say Nate James actually was the guy that was the lead recruiter on him with Coach K. He was definitely still all involved with his commitment to go to Duke and staying on board with this #1 recruiting class.
Top 3 players in the ESPN 100 headed to Duke next year. First time in the ESPN 100 era, going back to 07, that any school has done that. And Duke's got top 10 prospects in back-to-back years. And 11 in the top 3 since 2007. 7 more than any other school. So let me ask you guys this. If you're the type of school that brings in one-and-done players year after year, can you still call yourself a program at that point, or are you just a turnover factory as players come in and then leave the next year? Because you're not a program if you're not developing guys over the course of 4 years, are you?
Well, you're still a program, but in all honesty, Mike, I believe that the one-and-done era is about to be over soon. I believe that the change is coming with the NBA allowing players to be able to come right out of high school, and then there may be something put in place where the age limit actually goes up if you do go to college.
It'll be interesting to see how that falls out. 93 all. We've got ourselves a good one. 11:17 to play. The journey for Darius Garland has gone from Indiana to Tennessee and here to Atlanta, a guy who's got speed that travels with him wherever he goes.
Yeah, he averaged 28 points a game, and his speed is on a different level. You're going to see a ball screen come up here, and he waits for it. And then this ability to split right there. Reggie Perry jumps out, but the ability to go back against the grain so quick, that dynamic speed laterally is something that's going to make him a handful next year in the SEC.
And the thing about him is simply about the fact that he's not a guy that you can play off of. Darius Garland is a lights-out shooter. He's a guy that you can really stretch the defense, so his ability to continue to play the point guard position and get better at the point guard position. Of course, his father, Winston Garland, an NBA player, he comes from great bloodlines, and so when you look at what Vandy's already been able to do this year with he and, of course, Semi together, Aaron Naismith, who is an underrated player, but you hear a lot of great things about him coming out of the state of North Carolina as well. And again, Darius Garland told me, Corey, I'm not done. I got 2 more guys I'm going after. He's after Romeo Langford. He's after E.J. Montgomery to complete that class.
And Aaron Naismith, too, he's 6'5". He's a wing with range. He can shoot the ball, scored over 2,000 points in high school as well. So another guy that can fill it up from beyond the arc.
There was some fate involved for Darius Garland to end up at Vanderbilt because Bryce Drew has known his family since Darius was in 3rd grade, and his family lived in Gary, Indiana. They'd go to Valpo basketball camp when Homer was the head coach, and then in 6th grade, family moved to Tennessee, and he spent all 4 years at Brentwood Academy, just 10 miles from Vandy, Jeff.
There are plenty of people that think that Vandy is the leader for Romeo Langford, and now that group also going after E.J. Montgomery a little bit. And, you know, Garland's relationship with Langford is very strong. He can't get a great feel for Langford. Nobody can at this point. But if they get these 3 or 4 guys, imagine what a class that is for a program, again, that really hasn't ever done anything like this recruiting-wise.
And give Bryce Drew credit really for what he's been able to do. you know, in Nashville thus far, and a very competitive team in the SEC this year, which was a much improved conference. But if he's able to bring this type of talent into Nashville, watch out for Vanderbilt on the national landscape.
Just saw Reggie Perry knock down that three. Reggie Perry going to Mississippi State. Known Reggie Perry for a long time. He is my cousin. He used to be my little cousin. He is no longer the little cousin.
Just your younger cousin now.
Big cousin making a three, but his skill set is really tremendous. And I think he has a chance to be a big-time pro. There are some things as far as patience on the block that he needs to continue to work on, but he has the ability to knock down the outside shot, and he has great footwork down low.
And one thing you don't question with Reggie Perry, motor.
Yep,
motor and effort. He's got it.
Montgomery stuffs it. Mississippi State with a nice deep postseason run this year. Their season came to a close last night in Madison Square Garden, losing against Penn State in the NIT. It sets up the Nittany Lions and Utah for the title tomorrow at 7 on ESPN2.
And one of those guys we really haven't talked much about, but when you look at the box score, already has 20 points. Jordan Brown, another one of those uncommitted players. And he continues to impress. Has had a strong week here at the McDonald's All-American game.
Fourth foul on Cam Reddish with 9:23 to go. The East up by 1. And Naz Reid knocks it down from the free throw line. Going to LSU, the number 22 player in the ESPN 100. As we mentioned, the first full recruiting class for Will Wade there after he got hired in March of 2017. Darius Baisley going to the line. He'll be a welcome addition to the 2-3 zone and an expanding roster next year for Syracuse that adds, among others, transfer Elijah Hughes, who is out this year. Sports Center tonight after Celtics Jazz on ESPN with SVP. He'll have his take on how good the Sixers can be with Markelle Fultz back out on the court. A look back at what Zion Williamson has been able to do tonight as part of the #1 recruiting class for Duke, and a look ahead to the MLB opening day. Sports Center, midnight Eastern on ESPN and the ESPN app.
Saw a video of Ben Simmons for the Sixers about to play a video game online against Cat, Karl Anthony Towns from Minnesota, and he was joking around saying, "Who y'all got tomorrow?" because he wanted to play the game now. And Ben was saying at the Cat was like, "Oh, I think we got Atlanta." And then Ben said, "Oh, you got time. You got a lot of time. Just go on, come on, play this video game." Why y'all doing Atlanta dirty like that, Ben?
Wasn't long ago Atlanta was competing in the Eastern Conference Finals. Was that against Miami or was that against Cleveland? I know it was against LeBron, but it was one of those two not long ago. Mike Budenholzer, my man Bud, who of course is the head coach here in this building. Bud was actually the video coordinator. We came into San Antonio together. We were both rookies. He was the video coordinator, and now he's actually got an NBA Coach of the Year award to his credit. So give my man Bud a lot of credit. Hard-working guy who's really established himself in the NBA ranks. Used to be my workout dummy.
Yeah?
Yeah. Probably shouldn't call him dummy. But he could.
Probably shouldn't use those words.
I probably called him dummy a couple times when he went for the crossover and kept going for it. So great guy, though. Buzz, my man.
I think Jay last night in our pickup game turned a lot of people into his workout dummy.
First off, Mike.
Playing in dress pants.
Mike, do not mention that monstrosity of basketball that was played on this court yesterday. I'm begging Jay not to play in this game. Of course, in his street shoes and jeans.
Can't help it.
And no, you really can't. And Mike, the last person that should ever mention having played basketball here yesterday would be you, buddy.
Well, I knew it was a bad sign that I was going to be playing in that game when I told you and Paul Biancardi that I brought my basketball shoes here to Atlanta. And we're in the hotel lobby, and Paul says, "Well, why'd you bother?" And so that was pretty much the beginning of the downhill slide.
Hey, you know what, though?
When Jay said, "What are those?"
What are those? You know what you never questioned with Mike, though?
What's that?
Effort.
No question.
He gives you the effort. Hard screens,
motor,
sprints the court.
Jay, that's all he's got. I mean, at the end of the day, my man Cuzzo, that's all he's got. He's going to give you everything he has out there, but all he had to bring with him was effort.
Yeah, Jay had street shoes, dress pants, and still by a mile was the best player on the floor.
But props to Brooke, though.
Yeah,
Brooke balled yesterday.
Brooke came out and balled.
Brooke ball and my man Sachs on the camera
sitting to our right.
Special Yes, by the way, Sack's got his name on the MVP trophy. Just so you didn't know.
Yeah.
Sack's got it
give
done
Sack
yesterday.
some love.
Yes,
Yes.
Sax. Yes,
Get in
Sax.
there,
That's
baby.
what I'm
Get
talking
in there,
about, baby. Yes, sir.
Soft touch on the floater. MVP trophy right there. Well, we know nobody came to Atlanta to be a standout defender, but still, the athleticism that's been on display has been impressive tonight.
It really has, and you see, of course, we knew Zion Williamson would bring it, but it's been Dave McCormick, R.J. Barrett, Keldon Johnson, so many different guys. Romeo Langford taking off from deep. So many different players getting involved in the highlight reel here, and Jeff Goodman has two of those guys.
All right, guys, you guys are up 2 here down this. I want to know first about this text thread. Trey started it. How did he get you to Duke? What were some of those texts that he threw out there that we can actually talk about? I'm sure some of them we couldn't, but.
I mean, we talked a lot about winning, and that's what matters most to me. So I knew him at point guard, it's a big chance we could win.
All right, so your brother went to Duke. I want to know the best piece of advice he's given you, not on the court, like about the Duke campus, something cool about maybe, I don't know, where to go, where not to go.
Right. For him, he just told me just get to know people around there. There's a lot of elite people, not only in basketball and the sports there, but just all around the campus and your classmates. So just get to know the people around you.
All right, so bragging rights are at stake here against your future teammates. You're up 1 now with quickly the line to tie it. What's on the line here? I mean, this is going to be a lot of trash talking, isn't it?
Right. Like you said, it's just a lot of bragging rights on the line here. It's all fun and games, but of course we want to come out with the win.
All right, Cam, Trey, you got one more stint in here. You better get it done. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
You got it.
Trey, number 12 in the country. Cam Reddish ranked number 3.
Did Cam even say anything?
Cam got the first answer.
I got the first answer.
But you know the point guards are the ones doing all the talking. That's why me and you are always over here battling for words. But give some props to my girl, Debbie. Both Trey and Tyus' mom, Debbie, she's been through this before. Of course, Tyus was able to play in the McDonald's game, then the Jordan Brand Classic and Hoop Summit, and Trey will actually participate in all of those games as well this year. So she's definitely a veteran along this mix.
And from the least surprising news of the year department, Marvin Bagley declaring to go pro today.
What?
Out of bounds underneath, then it stays here.
You see a great pick and roll, and so many times players don't understand if you set a legitimate screen, if you roll, if you have a point guard like Javon Quinterly, he will find you. You will be seeing a lot of that next year for the North Carolina Tar Heels.
But one thing you will see is actually help side defense waiting on a little bit.
Yes, you will see that as well. I'm trying to stay positive here, Corey, okay?
I got you. I'm with you on the staying positive. I like the staying positive out of you, Jay.
109-109, 7:17 to go. Here are the 41st annual McDonald's All-America game. So that means this game's got a lot of history. You two guys, classes of 99, 91. Were you the best players on the floor that day? You can just say yes, and we'll believe
I was not. And if they show negative highlights of me, we're going to have a problem. Oh, there I go. Dropping down. My man, Donald Williams.
Right there.
Uh-oh, get him up in the air, lean over top of little Calvin. Sorry, Calvin Rayford, but you couldn't do anything with that one.
We had a guy named Jonathan Bender in our class who went straight to the NBA after he broke Jordan's record for 31 points. But look, this game for me, we didn't get a chance to interact with as many of the other players like these kids are doing today. So I got a chance to see names like Brett Nelson, who went to Florida, Jason Gardner, who went to Arizona for the first time in that game. And it was good actually getting a chance to see where you ultimately stood when you got a chance to go against those guys day-to-day competition.
Absolutely, Jay. And that's one of the things, of course, in the social media generation, these players know each other so well. And then you also consider the fact that many of them play USA basketball. Coach Don Showalter playing the U16s, U17s growing up. They have relationships, and they play against each other on the EYBL circuit, Adidas circuit, Under Armour circuit. So when you have all that going on, now you have relationships with each other.
I'm sorry for clapping, Corey. But this is what I want to see.
This is what we're supposed to do.
This is what I want to see.
Hype in here.
This was North Carolina basketball at the beginning of the year, too, where they were locking down the defensive stance. They got a little bit away from that later in the year, but that's what Nazir Little can bring to the table.
Well, and think about it. Nazir Little going to North Carolina. Zion Williamson going to Duke. They're going to have to go at this next year, so Nazir Little just getting it started.
This is what I want to see. This is what real basketball is.
Little goes 2 for 2 defensively. Jones leads the break, and Little for 3 goes too long. Zion stayed seated at the other end of the floor and is looking at his right hand right now. The officials just catching up on that, and he's in a deal of pain holding that hand.
We'll give these two guys credit for going after it. Nasir Little accepting the challenge, reaching in, and Zion.
Oh, it looks like I don't know if he dislocated his finger.
Looked like the thumb.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he dislocated it or not, but he had to go get that checked out because he saw that thing bend back the wrong way. You hope that he's okay.
But certainly disappointed.
Well, I don't think disappointed. I think he's angry.
Yeah, I think that's an angry face, and I would be surprised, honestly, knowing him and the competitor that he is, especially with the last play that he was on the court. He's probably going to try to come back in this game.
Yeah, well, he's going to the back now. And that look you saw was definitely not disappointment. That was anger that Zion Williamson actually turned the ball over. He is that type of competitor. We hope he's okay. I hope he will be. But that young man is a fighter.
Yes,
you can tell.
Is.
Number 2 player in the ESPN 100, Zion Williamson. You mentioned grassroots before, how that's changed and how these guys can play USA basketball. They can follow each other online. From the time that you guys were in high school to now, and there's multiple different summer circuits that guys can play on, how familiar when you played were you with some of the other good players at your level around the country?
Honestly, and of course, eons ago, me coming out of high school in 1991, I was actually pretty familiar with the guys that were the top guys, but of course you didn't have the personal relationships with them. You didn't really, team up and say we're all going to go together to this school. I was in the 1991 class where the Fab Five all decided to go to Michigan, but it wasn't as though one person said we're going to go here. It just was the best situation for each and every one of those guys. Jalen Rose and Chris Webber both played together in Detroit, but Juwan Howard was the one that, if anyone, was getting everyone together.
Women's Final Four, Columbus, Ohio, Friday on ESPN2, 7 and 9 Eastern. It's Louisville and Mississippi State to start, and Notre Dame, UConn to finish things off. Both games presented by Capital One and streaming live on the ESPN app. Jay, in high school for you, how different are things compared to today?
Well, obviously, social media. I knew all the guys that I was going to compete against. I had been following them for a while. So for me, just getting a chance to see how strong and how quick guys were up in the flesh was something that was different. But it was also good for me because it gave me more motivation after the game was over that I had to continue to work on my game. One of the things that I recognize is that I saw a lot of guys in my class that already felt like they had made it. They already felt like they were the guy. And for all these guys, just because you're a McDonald's All-American now does not mean that you're going to automatically be an NBA draft pick. There are a lot of guys out there who are not McDonald's All-Americans who have extra fuel as motivation to work on their game to beat these guys out.
And one thing, during this time of year, ESPNU always runs a lot of the older games that have played in the past. And so, of course, for me, from 1995 really through 2005 when I was playing in the NBA, I didn't have the opportunity to keep up with as much of this. And I saw some games. There were guys who were like the number 1, number 2 players in the country that I never even knew and you don't hear of now. So again, as you said, just because you're here, this is not a rite of passage. There are a lot of great NBA players that were not McDonald's All-Americans as well.
I think for all these guys, they have been immersed in workouts. They've worked their tails off to get to this point where they're at now. But I think this is where the real journey starts, because now you have the attention. And now you have to figure out who you want to be with the attention. Some people let the attention get the best of them because they get caught up in that life of the attention. Other people understand that it's not about the attention. It's about I need to continue to work and build in my game so I can ultimately get to where I want to be. But, I mean, this game, it epitomizes it. I mean, guys are dealing with these issues for the first time now think about how many family members come out of nowhere, or cousins or friends. Hey, I need tickets to the game. I want to come see you play. I saw you do this move. You need to shoot the ball more. Why aren't you shooting the ball more? You start dealing with all these outside factors that start influencing how you play, when I don't think you really have to go through that when you're in high school, because your games aren't nationally televised every single night.
The higher the level, sometimes the more distractions there are. Garland's been putting it up. Lob shots.
A beautiful feed from Darius Garland off of his own miss, recognizing where David McCormack was, in soft hands there by McCormack to finish that off.
Okay, Cuz.
Reggie Perry, number 23 in the class, headed to Mississippi State.
He's going to be utilized a lot next year with the Weatherspoons, two guys that can involve him in screen and roll opportunities. He's a guy that can roll to the basket. Or he can knock down that pick and pop shot.
Nobody's been able to keep Garland away from the basket. Leading scorer in the game, Nasir Little with 26 points.
The 2018 McDonald's All-American Game is brought to you by McDonald's. Build whatever meal you want with favorites on the new $1, $2, $3 menu.
You know how good that was? The kid is on another level. With the hands in his face.
He is like a Steph Curry clone.
We knew Trae Young would be good. We didn't know he'd be the face of college basketball for most of the season. Nasir Little, 26 points right now, the game's leading scorer. And it just goes to show you how guys can really take off from the end of their high school career going into college. As Little's going to be going to North Carolina next year and can emerge so much. And Little is a guy who, from this time last year to now, has been one of the most improved players in skill development in the class of 2018.
And we saw that a year ago with Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton coming into his senior year of high school, people really didn't know a lot about him until that summertime. And you see Nasir Little continuing to develop. And Jay, he's been one of the guys that all the high school scouts, the NBA scouts, they've been very impressed with him all week long with his size, ability to shoot the basketball, put it on the floor, and make plays. And Nasir Little has had a great showing here at the McDonald's All-American Game.
Have not seen him rush one shot, take shots within the confine of the offense, and is so good at creating space. I think creating space is one of the most underrated things we have in this game. A guy can catch the ball, turn face, create a little bit of space, and all of a sudden that leaves you uneasy as a defender, in particular for a guy like this who has the size who can shoot over the top of smaller guards, but also can take a bigger guard out on the perimeter, a bigger forward, and take him off the dribble drive.
Part of the number 7 class in the country for 2018 with Kobe White and Leaky Black as well. Looking to fill the gaps left by Barry and Pinson for next season.
Now we got a great MVP race here. Nasir Little, 11 to 16 from the field, 26 points, 5 rebounds. Also, you have RJ Barrett, who's involved this 9 of 11 from the field, 24 points as well.
Now, does the MVP of the game come down to which team wins? Is that going to be important in this now, considering that we should see a competitive 2.5 minutes here to end it?
Oh, I think so. I mean, Jonathan Bender has the most record. He has the record for most points in the game, 31. He's the one that broke Jordan's record in the year I played in 1999. Can't believe that record's still holding up.
Yeah, well, and especially in an era where that game was more competitive in comparison to an era now where pretty much you get up and down in free flow and not a lot of defense in the game. I would have expected to see that broken, but right now, Keldon Johnson attacking the basket, getting to the free throw line. Going to be interesting to see which one of these guys steps up as a leader and decides, hey, I'm going to make the effort to defend and play tougher on that end of the floor to try to get my team a win.
Look at that, Nasir Little coming back in the game. Now we get a chance to see that matchup between him and RJ Barrett.
McCormack goes to the bench, going to Kansas out of Oak Hill, as is Keldon Johnson out of Oak Hill, going to Kentucky. And the season's not yet done for the Warriors out of Malfa Wilson, VA.
It is not. A big game tomorrow.
Hand up
at the Geico Nationals against, of course, Brandon Roy and the Garfield group coming out of Seattle.
That'll be part of a quadruple header coming your way from Christ the King High School in Queens.
Sticks. Jalen Smith knocking one down. Out of Mount St. Joe's, and team takeover DC continues to grow, headed to Maryland next year. with Mark Turgeon, and another one of those guys that everyone looks at and says the potential for this guy is amazing.
One of 3 players in the ESPN 100 for that class headed to Maryland. Reddish leads it. Little finishes. He's got 28 closing in, 3 shy of the record.
And more importantly, 2 points to get him closer to the East right now. A 4-point game, a minute and a half left. Now you see the West coming with a bit of a trapping motion, but that's one guy you can't leave open. They dodged the bullet with Langford missing the 3.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Keldon Johnson taking a strong charge there.
Jay, you talked about it earlier, taking a charge in an all-star game, but it really shows you the mentality of Keldon Johnson. This young man is about winning and making winning plays here.
And R.J. Barrett extending that right arm right there. That's an offensive foul. And you like the fact that Keldon Johnson is doing this, considering that his team is down 4 points in the McDonald's All-American game coming to a close.
From the corner, 3-pointer is good for Reddish.
Now we have a game. East only up 1 point. Minute 4 left.
And we talk about winning plays. Keldon Johnson once again trying to attack the basket. Give Romeo Langford credit for making a good defensive stand. But when you keep, and one of the rules we all know, and especially at this level, you cannot help off a strong side corner. R.J. Barrett and Naz Reid getting lost, and Cam Reddish, a knockdown shooter from the corner.
Great pass there by Keldon Johnson, but also an underrated pass just off the ball screen initially from Trey Jones. I can't tell you how many times you see point guards get lost, and every ball screen I have to dribble and dominate the ball. No, you don't. The ball screen can come right up from the top. You don't have to utilize it sometimes. The defense is shifted over. A quick pass over for an easy drive by Keldon Johnson.
We saw Zion Williamson go out earlier with an injured hand. Jeff, what's the latest?
Right now, they're looking at Zion Williamson back in the locker room right now, and certainly doesn't look like he's going to come back for the last 104 of this one.
And the right thumb there hitting the floor as he tried to get around Little and get to the basket, and that was the last that we've seen of Zion Williamson on the floor.
Just hope that Zion's okay.
For as important as this game is and as fun as it is, he's got a lot bigger things to accomplish in his basketball career, and hope to see him healthy.
And again, look at the trapping action. Trey Jones, Naz Little right there. Both those guys may be enemies next year, but right now teaming up for a great trap on Darius Garland, forcing the turnover and giving the West the basketball back with an opportunity to take a lead.
Good pass and good job utilizing the head fake right there by Brown.
But look at this right now, Jay. Keldon Johnson picking up R.J. Barrett, taking on the challenge, 94 feet.
I'm clapping. I'm standing up right now. This is what you want to see.
Barrett to the rim.
Look at that.
Finishes with the right hand.
And Barrett up to the challenge.
Brown running the floor, ahead of the field. Dunks with 2. 25 seconds to go. 129-128. Barrett lost it, and it's going the other way inside 20 seconds, although that call may change.
You see R.J. Barrett right here, and most definitely getting by without a foul. I mean, that was almost an and one, but the ability to finish with the right hand in traffic was big, and then the pass over the top for an easy transition dunk.
And again, that shows you the difference in the level of competition right now, because of course if you're playing in a real game, no way at this time of a game do you get beat over the top for could be a potential game-winning bucket on that possession. So again, but you see the West team now locked in. Trey Jones leading his group, Keldon Johnson stepping up, Cam Reddish stepping up, Jordan Brown. This group was down 8 points just a few seconds ago, and because of a number of defensive stands, find themselves with a 1-point lead.
East team down by 1. Perhaps they'll turn to Romeo Langford here down the stretch. One of the 3 undeclared players in this game. 19 points for him today.
And Romeo Langford has really done it on both ends of the floor, getting involved defensively, attacking the rim, the off-balance floater to be able to finish over the top, and then, of course, with authority, going down the lane. But one thing we know about Romeo Langford, that he can stretch the defense. His ability to shoot from beyond the arc really separates him as one of the best shooters in this class.
So he's down to 3, looking to make his decision in mid-April between Indiana, Kansas, and Vanderbilt. Anthony Simons has gone pro, so it's E.J. Montgomery and Jordan Brown left unsigned in this game. Here's Barrett.
Oh, he got fouled.
No whistle. Reddish down the floor. Emphatic slam.
Only down 3. Still in it.
I don't know if either team had a timeout left.
Well, it is an All-American game. It is an All-Star game. So I doubt they would give them a technical foul on that one.
McDonald's can make their own rules here.
Right, but Keldon Johnson stepping up defensively, getting involved in that play, maybe a little contact. But, Jay, that's what we've been asking for, guys, to accept the challenge, especially on the defensive end of the floor, stepping up, guarding R.J. Barrett, and turning it into points on the other end of the floor for the West team.
Hey, guys, we need to go back and show that play again. This is going to show you that R.J. Barrett is the best player in the class, but there's still room for improvement. He's driving towards his right hand. Now, Keldon Johnson sits on the left hand because he knows that R.J. is going to bring the ball back to his left. So as you continue to work on player development, when you get to the rim, you try to get to the right side of the rim, or try to hit Keldon Johnson with some kind of step back, but you can't bring the ball back to your left, back to Keldon Johnson in traffic.
All right. I believe it's one thing we all should recognize is the fact that even though these guys are so good, so young, they have a lot of improvement.
Darius Garland has not made a bucket this entire game.
He pulls up from 3 off the front rim, and that does it. 131-128, your final, as the West team is victorious here in Atlanta.
Well, that's the kind of reaction you want to see from somebody who won this game in Nasir Little. He's been very, very impressive this entire ball game.
I think impressive enough to be the MVP of this game. But, you know, again, of course, I might be a little bit biased, but give my boy Keldon Johnson a lot of credit for what he was able to do at the end of this game, especially taking on the challenge of guarding R.J. Barrett. And it results in a win for his West team.
Nasir Little, 12 of 17 from the floor, and 28, 3 shy of the game's record.
Yeah, Nasir Little, 6'7", 215 pounds, from Christian Prep, Orlando, Florida. You think about North Carolina losing Joe Barry, losing Theo Pinson, there will be open gap for a guy like him to come in right away and be an absolute star for Roy Williams and the Tar Heels next year. And that's a big-time move. That is a pro move. A guy 6'7", fluid on the perimeter, who can hit you off with a step back in traffic.
Jeff?
Nasir, 28 points, but more importantly, you get the win. Came right down to the wire. What was it like in the closing minutes? R.J. Barrett had a couple of chances.
Me and my team, we put emphasis on winning, not necessarily individual game. We all had the same goal, trying to win the game. So come down, we really keyed in on defense and got key stops.
What do you think you showed for those Carolina Tar Heel fans that were watching you tonight?
I showed everything. I showed energy. I showed excitement. And, that's what I come to do, entertain the fans, get them a good show, and I had fun tonight.
Thanks a lot, Nasir. Mike.
All right, Jeff, an impressive performance for the number 10 player in the class, part of the number 7 recruiting class, headed to North Carolina next year. So did you get the defense you wanted to see, Jay?
I did, finally. I actually had the kids be somewhat competitive. But that's what you want to see when you come to this game. And I know everybody at home feels exactly the same way. It's good to see everybody score dunks, but you want to see how this translates to next year. You want to start, Corey, understanding who are these kids psychologically. Because just because you make it here doesn't mean you're going to make it to the next level. And you know, a guy like Cam Reddish, right? One of the things you have to see him work on is his ability to be aggressive. And I think we understand that now, but you get a chance to see it in person.
Absolutely, and we talked about his talent level, an extremely talented level guy. When you think about Cam Reddish, at 6'8", his ability to shoot the basketball from beyond the arc, to put it on the floor, to make plays. And honestly, I do believe that he came in with a much more exerted effort to show that he could play hard. Jay, you had an opportunity to talk to him yesterday, and really a little bit about your own experiences, and I think he took that to heart and showed up today. But he was also with a number of guys on his team, Keldon Johnson, Nasir Little, that I think pushed him, as well as, of course, his point guard in the past and, of course, in the future, Trey Jones.
Yeah, I'll say it again. I first off hope that Zion Williamson is okay with that thumb. A speedy, healthy recovery for him. Romeo Langford was extremely impressive today. Shot over 60% from the field. Ended the game with 20-plus points. And you have to give, you know, Naz Reid, too. We haven't talked a lot about him, but I think he's one of the most underrated players in this game. I think he's going to be a huge get next year.
I agree. His ability to put the ball on the floor and stretch the defense with that frame, as you said it, that's a grown man going into college basketball next year.
Recruiting season's not done yet, however. From this game, we're waiting on Romeo Langford, E.J. Montgomery, Jordan Brown, with their college decisions all imminent as we get further into spring. The West team's a winner, 131-128. So for Corey Alexander, Jay Williams, Jeff Goodman, and our entire ESPN crew, Mike's Cousins saying good night from Atlanta. Coming up next, NBA Countdown with Paul Pierce and Rachel Nichols.